one of the first positive memories I ever had of deer hunting was going to the check station. And if you're too young to remember this, back in the day, most states had it where you had to check your deer in. So if you shot a deer, you had to tag it before you did anything else. And then you had a certain amount of time. And here where I hunted in gun season, you had like a week, but most people did it way earlier than that. And back then, our gun season always came in the Saturday before gun season. The Saturday before Thanksgiving, same as today. But it was always colder, and for me, it seems like it was always freezing. Buck poles with deer hanging from them, frozen deer carcasses. Anyways, one of my very first memories was we were hunting in northern Wisconsin, and it was a rite of passage, number one, to go to deer camp, but to go to the check station. So I'm, a teenager, and we pull up to the check station, normally at a gas station or, a convenience store or something like that. And hanging around the check station was a big thing because, like, if somebody brought in a buck, you didn't see bucks very often, and you just kind of, as a kid, you would just kind of blend into the background, and guys would tell their story, how they got their deer, and it was just, it was very special. It was a very special way of getting involved in the community and learning about hunting and hearing stories from other guys. To me, that's something that I'll never forget. So Ian Sanchez, my crack producer here, and I are going to talk about that today here on Deer Talk Now. Thank you for joining us, by the way. We're going to talk about the positive hunting experience, because Ian has got a couple seasons under his belt now, and he's learning that, especially in today's age, and I don't know why that is, Ian, but it just seems like there's so much negativity out there. Not from anti-hunters, not from non-hunters, but from the hunting community in general.
Right. Some of our own people, the people that we should, that should be supporting us. I think obvious answer, social media, and just the amount of connection that we all have with each other that's like the main focus of today's topic. Is like there is no greater evil and greater good in the hunting community than the ability to connect through social media.
It is something that I find fascinating, disturbing, all at the same time, because I've seen both sides of the mountain. I was like, when I grew up, it was, and this isn't that long, I'm not that old, or am I? But we didn't have any of that. We didn't have so something that you haven't experienced. You've never experienced a check station, have you?
No.
So probably the closest is when we go to Nebraska.
Yeah.
Because when we go to Nebraska, you still have to check your deer.
There's that bar that has the guy outside.
It's the best place in the world. There's old Pap signs on the wall.
All the pickup trucks are backed up, and they got all their antlers hanging out the tailgates. It's pretty special.
So what you've seen there, and they still do it, and they take CWD tissue samples there, and that's why they do it. But what you see there is just a very small taste of what we used to have. Now, can you imagine if you were, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but if you were to hunt Pennsylvania or New York or Michigan or Wisconsin back in the day, now I'm talking 20, 30 years ago, you'd go to a check station, they're literally packed with pickup trucks, cars, deer hanging from the tops of cars, shoved into minivans, and everybody's standing around waiting to get their deer checked in. But it wasn't we didn't hate it. It was like going to church. And I don't mean to say that sacrilegiously, but it was oh, there's a guy I never seen before, or there's somebody I haven't seen in 10 years or whatever. And then you share the stories.
Yeah.
And everybody, for the most part, I can think of a couple instances where guys were jerks, but for the most part, it didn't matter what you shot. You got your buck. Congratulations, man. And then they would ask you the story, and you'd sit there all proud as a peacock to tell the story. That's how it was. Today, that's all extracted with the elimination of check stations. And people say, well, why have they done that? Because A, funding, and B, there's nobody there anymore. Like, states have gutted their agencies to the point where they don't collect that. What they used to do is collect data, and it was highly accurate, and we could go off on topic on that. But the main reason for check stations were, now I don't want to get too geeky, but do you remember the sex, age, kill formula? That's what they used to do to model deer populations. So what they would do is they would check in how many bucks, how many does, they come up with that number, and it was very accurate. But that was back when the preponderance of the hunters would shoot any buck that they saw, and it was much easier to manage statistically a deer herd that way. With QDM and things like that, that's kind of wrecked that modeling program. That's one aspect. The other aspect is, like I said, states have basically, when you used to have dozens of deer biologists in states, we don't have that anymore. So that data that they had is lost. But the other thing that I've always, as a business owner now, I guess as gas stations have become so corporately owned, if I was an independent guy, I would hire some high school kid, to run that check station today, because I know it's going to bring more money into that business. Or if I was like if I was an archery shop owner or something, I would want that. And now I know maybe some people listening to this will give me a counter argument to that, but
something we're not seeing.
Yeah. But I can't imagine having, 1,000 guys and gals pull into your business on a Saturday to register their deer is not going to somehow generate more money. It almost has to. You're going to buy a candy bar or whatever, coffee, get some gas, whatever. Anyways, but that's where we were today. That access with online, and you see it every day with everything that you do. You do all the videos for us. You see the negativity. How does that, number one, what are your thoughts on it, and how does it affect you as a hunter?
I think, honestly, I'm going to take it back a step here, and I'm going to talk about, how did we even get to the point where it, people felt the need to, take the experience away or alter the hunting experience online in any way at all. And I think it starts with the archery forums in 2004 and 5 and 6. I'm very young, but I can still go on the internet, and the internet lasts forever. And I'm finding these old forums, these old websites where guys are getting in rather heated debates over expandable or fixed blade or crossbows or compounds, and it's creating separation in our own community. And I think some of the aside from just the behavior of grown adults and how they handle comments on social media and how they dish out comments on social media, I think that could turn a hunter off pretty quickly. I've had a few instances where I myself have seen negativity, and it just puts a sour taste in your mouth. You're like, that's not what this is about. This wasn't supposed to be a competition or a means to just get attention.
I agree with you. And that's a good point. Now, bow hunting is my favorite thing to do. I love to bow hunt. Anybody who's listened to this podcast or watched this podcast knows I love to also hunt with a crossbow. I do it all. But I've also learned to accept everybody. I mean, everybody, because as a bow hunter, we are such a small minority. 9 million whitetail hunters, 3 million of those are bow hunters. That's it. There's 6 million gun hunters out there who basically, I'm not sitting there trying to pick a fight, but those are the real guys. Those are the guys that are they sit there and shake their head and look at these silly bozos fighting amongst each other. I'm going to go out and kill my deer. For the most part, there's guys. Yeah, there's bad people on all things. But if you go back to the very start of the internet, and for us at Deer and Deer Hunting, that was up in 1995, when it was just this
Is that dial-up?
Pretty close. We're on the World Wide Web. We thought it was like the coolest thing. You can send an email. I can have a conversation with Ian 3 states away over email. But we had the forums. And I remember, you guys know, if you're listening to this and you've been a fan for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. We got some of these holier-than-thou bow hunters on there who were just bullies. Now, I'm not just saying it's the bow hunters. You got guys on who have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda, but I think some people are more pure with their intent. And it's just like they sit there and they bully a new hunter, a guy who's hunting with a crossbow, somebody's hunting with a rifle. And now I see it in social media, especially, that it's just gotten nasty. And it's taken some of that fun, the positivity out of it. That's one thing, and we're going to go on some of these topics, but when you got somebody talking about like, well, why'd you shoot that buck, or why didn't you pass him up? And it's like, do you even know my situation? I'm talking as the general hunter. Like, if I'm the general hunter do you even know the guy's situation? Maybe he hunts 9 acres. Maybe he only's got 3 days to hunt.
Right, blue collar guy.
Not even a blue collar guy. Maybe this guy's working so much and he's got 3 kids at home and he just doesn't have time.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you should have gave that deer. Like, what? The video that you just posted the other day was. We had the picture or the video of the buck walking in, and then you stopped it.
Yeah, the shot placement. Where should you aim?
Where should you aim, A, B, or C? And the first comment was from a guy who said, I'm aiming for another 2 years.
Right. It's like, okay, so why did you personally feel the need? Like, that's your style of hunting. Why is it that there's this my way is the only right way mentality that's so popular in the hunting community? And I'm not saying that to... Like, I feel like I'm always, every time I come on the podcast, I'm talking about a very negative subject, but this is one of those things that just really pulls at the new hunter, the brand spanking new, as you say, apple-cheeked, like, youngin' that comes into the game wanting to shoot deer, and they see all these other young guys on the internet doing it, adventuring, traveling, and shooting their bows, and then they get comments like that, and then they feel like the need to hold out for no, shoot whatever makes you happy. That's that guy's opinion. That's how he wants to do it.
So how does that affect you? Because like I said, you're coming at this with fresh eyes.
Right.
Do you feel like, and I know that their intent is to make you feel like insecure, or
it's kind of hard for me to say, Dan, because I have you, I have Brad, I have the whole team here to I have this kind of understanding going into this already that people are going to be like this with the intention to make you upset, to troll you, to really just, push you to be mad. And I understand that. I think, though, if I didn't have that understanding initially, it would feel like gatekeeping. It'd feel like there's a lot of gatekeeping in this community, and it would make me very isolated in it. So, and I see that with a lot of people. They just I shoot my deer and I don't tell anyone about it. I don't post about it. I might text my dad,
See, that's what I like about your view on this, because like I say, fresh eyes is that I want to speak to anybody who's listening to this, because you're right. Like, unless you're a hunter who has a dad or a grandpa or an uncle or somebody who has that experience that can help you, if you're in this fresh by yourself, I guess the overriding message needs to be, you can't, and it's easy for us to say, but don't listen to that. And this transcends hunting. It goes to all sorts of things on social media, because people are trying to feed on your insecurities.
Right.
And I think it is basically rooted out of jealousy. It's rooted out of their own insecurities, and it's rooted out of, just being not happy people.
Right. It's greed and jealousy, and then the need to show that they're doing better than they actually are. And I'm sure there's an easier way to word that.
Good point.
But like with everyone, you're not getting what you actually see in real life. Like it's different.
So, another thing that which it's the same topic, but I think what we have today, obviously, the technology that we have today, the communication abilities that we have today is way better than we've ever had before. I don't want to go back to the days of shooting a bow with my fingers and full length arrows and maybe being accurate at 20 yards and shooting 200 feet per second. No, I don't want that. But I think with all the good things that we have, it does make things harder. I think, is it easier to kill a deer today than it was, say, in 1980? Yes. Number one, we have more deer, for the most part, everywhere. Number two, we have better equipment, and we have better knowledge. I mean, deer and deer hunting has been at the forefront of that as far as knowledge. Like, we know more about deer today than I think I should say the knowledge base is there. The interesting part about that, though, that I find is even though we have that knowledge, I do believe that some of this technology we have, especially with the internet, has really dumbed people down a lot, who should know better, and people who are fresh to it simply don't know. And that's where some of those earlier references will help. We talk about Lenny Rue's books all the time, and people say, oh, he was some old guy. He was way ahead of his time. So I would say learning about that stuff, but then also using within, you got to hunt. I always said you got to let the deer show you how to hunt them. So stop looking at your phone and start getting your feet out into the woods, because that's where you're really going to learn more about the actual hunting experience, and then allowing that experience to fill you with what it's supposed to fill you with.
Right.
With good positive vibes.
It's so easy to take advice from a self-proclaimed expert and take it to be true. And I think with anyone's ability to just go create a channel or create a page or whatever on Instagram and call themselves such and such outdoors with such and such as the host, whatever it is. I'm not picking on anyone in particular. I'm just saying there's a lot of people out there who put themselves on this pedestal and without actually giving any credit or citing any factual evidence that they are a source that we should be listening to. And I think social media has definitely given people that entitlement to be a self-proclaimed expert.
No, that is true. I can't say it on the air, but it's any swinging beard with a laptop and with a
DSLR and a dream
can be an expert. Okay, so everyone is an expert. That's fine, whatever. Let people have their fun. But as far as keeping it positive for yourself, enjoy the entertainment value of it. Glean what you can as far as tips and tactics, but then try to put that aside and try to turn that phone off when you go out hunting, because that's when you're like I said, that's not only when you're going to learn how to hunt, it's also when you're going to learn how to enjoy it. But I think the other thing too is, let's say you don't own land, you don't have a lease, you don't have access. Public land hunting is doable. Not as doable as a lot of people proclaim, and I know that that's another shtick out there, and I'm not bashing on anybody. It's definitely doable, especially if you're young and you've got the vigor and the perseverance, but that's when you really learn how to hunt. If you can hunt, public lands in those big states with those big populations or in the South successfully, then you really know you're on the fast track to success. And it's not easy. It's not easy. I would say the mapping apps that we have are fabulous. But I think I talked about this before on this program, but we used to have just maps, like aerial photos and stuff. And we would have guys, and I could name them. I'm not going to. Very well-intentioned hunters, but they would sit there and pore over those maps and say, oh man, here's a funnel. I know this is where that buck's going to come through. It's like, you're not going to know until you hunt it. And that's how public land is. And then you got all the other variables of like, oh, I didn't realize that there was an old fence in here. Or, oh, I didn't realize that there's actually a walking trail here that people use all the time with their dogs. So there's certain things that you have to learn that way. But it's definitely doable, and it's harder. But that's something where you really have to have a very positive backbone to be able to be successful with it. Deer Talk Now is brought to you by Mossberg. Mossberg has been supplying American hunters with quality firearms for over 100 years. Over the years, they've upheld their commitment to innovation by creating a handful of firearms that have shaped the way we hunt today. For more information, visit mossberg.com.
So being that, everyone can go on the internet and communicate, new techniques and tools and tactics they want to, and opinions on certain matters in the hunting community, being that that's, possible, who should the new guy listen to? Because when I look at this, the first thing if I was to get into anything, whether it be hunting or fishing or whatever, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on YouTube and look up fishing compilation, hunting compilation, and I'm going to see 25 kills in 25 minutes or something. That's the first thing that a brand new hunter or a fisher or whatever is going to see, is they're going to see the most viral, sensational videos out there. So when we put ourselves, I'm not saying we're the greatest, I'm not saying we're the worst, I'm just saying that we have a presence in the deer hunting community in which we influence a lot of people, and we post a lot of biology stuff, we post a lot of whitetail behavioral stuff. Aside from ourselves, without, because I would self-promote and I would say you should go to deer and deer hunting.
Right.
You should come to us to see all this. Who could some of these young guys go out there? Who are some of the older guys that you would want to throw
There's
their
some
way?
great guys out there.
And some new guys too that you would recommend.
Right. Mark Kenyon actually is a younger guy who's very, very good.
Yeah.
He worked with us when he was in college. He's got the Wired Hunt deal. Very, very smart. There's other guys like Dan Infalt is a great hunter. I've watched his stuff.
Yeah. Shane Simpson, I'm gonna throw him
Shane
out there.
Simpson's like the best. He is that dude. That dude could kill a deer in a Kmart parking lot. I mean,
Kmart doesn't even exist anymore. That's how good he is.
That's a bad example. He at a Costco parking lot. He knows how to kill deer and turkeys. Those are the types of guys that I look to. There's other Jeff Sturgis. He's a land management guy, but he's a good hunter.
Yeah.
I mean, now I can't mention Steve because he's part of us, but Steve Bartella, he was killing big bucks on public land. Greg Miller, he doesn't do as much anymore content-wise, but if you could get his books, which are still available, Hell Blood from the Northeast, and forgive me if Hell and your buddies are watching this, I can't remember if Hell's out of Maine or Vermont, but he's one heck of a tracker, but not only a tracker, a good woodsman. You're going to find guys like that, and you're even going to find some of these younger guys, and I can't give you a name off the tip of my tongue here, but most of those people today that I've been seeing on YouTube and other places, once they get a following, then you see okay, it's Joe Blow Outdoors and things, which is fine. They come up with their own name, but most of these guys are just putting out YouTube videos of and you go through and it's not polished and it's not edited, but it's good hunting information. It's raw. The hunting public guys are good. I mean, they're good. But the thing is most of I shouldn't say most. They're very good at finding places where they know they can be successful, and that's very valuable.
They pin it down.
Very valuable. But as far as other ones, I just normally go down rabbit holes when I'm on YouTube, and if I see a video that it's more than just a guy, like you said, just the shot, you see a lot of that, which is cool. I mean, it's entertainment value of seeing a guy making a good shot on a deer. But there's people out there who are actually putting out some good content. I'm
gonna shout out one channel if I may, and I think it's just if you're actively looking to get excited about it, Deer Society.
Yes.
A lot of people don't talk about that, but Deer Society posts excellent stories. And then another one that's just so unique, Mike from Drone Deer Recovery. I mean, those stories are fantastic. Good. There's so many good stories.
You want to learn how to trail? Watch his channel.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing too. Some of the older guys, I'll get to that in a minute, but let's just stay on Mike for a minute.
Yeah.
In Shane's Cali Chronicles, have you ever watched that?
Yeah, with his dog.
With his
The blue
dog.
tick collar.
When you look at that, especially on his and Mike's, when he's showing the overhead of the, you can really learn a lot about deer behavior, wounded deer behavior on those. That's critical. Because I said a lot of today, when people say, "Oh, I lost my deer," you didn't really lose it. You just didn't find it. You know what I mean? There's a difference. There's a difference between shooting a deer and, it got away. It didn't get away. Woodsmanship in blood trailing is difficult. I mean, it is like, and you'll see it on those guys' videos. Shane's, especially with his dog, when he's a blood trailer, so he'll put it. He's got a trained bloodhound that goes after him, and then he'll peel back and he'll show you the actual GPS lines of where that dog went and how that deer went. And I've looked at those videos, and it's brought back so many memories for me. I used to keep logbooks of all my blood trails, and you would not believe how much that teaches you about the habitat, because those deer are running toward bedding areas.
Yeah.
They're running towards places where they don't get bothered. And then when you put all that information after years and years and years of shooting deer, I mean, I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just using it as a point. For 20 years, I shot double digits with my bow, and I kept details of every single blood trail. And then after, you say 4, 5, 6 years of doing that, I've noticed patterns of where those deer ran, especially the ones that didn't die right away. And then I learned, when I went back in postseason scouting, I learned, there's an oak ridge in here that I didn't know about. Or they're actually going in here because nobody can access this because there's no hunting.
Right.
Some of the stuff I was doing was in a blood trailing legally in a state park, not with my weapon, but going in there and learning. And you can learn that from a lot of these videos that you watch.
Right. There's so many different, sources and avenues of media for new hunters to go down and just learn as much as they possibly can. To kind of throw us back on to the main subject of creating a positive hunting experience, kids have cell phones in their hands way too early. You probably got your first phone in
my 40s.
Okay, so I got mine in I was 10, and that was for safety. It was just a little, call me if you need anything kind of phone. But still, the point is that kids now are 9, 8, and they have iPhones in their hands, and they're hunting with their dads or their dad or their mom or whoever might take them out hunting as early as possible to get them involved in it. And these kids are seeing all these, ways that people should be talking or acting or treating each other in the hunting community. It's kind of scary to, don't you think, to just kind of see the future generation of hunters being influenced so fast, so quickly that you can't kind of get a grasp on it. What would you recommend to any parents out there, or just anyone out there who is trying to pursue a interest in it, or just get a younger person to pursue an interest in hunting?
It's an excellent question, and it's a difficult one to answer, and everybody is different.
It's a loaded question. I mean,
it's a loaded question, and there is no right way to do it. I'm just going to give you some examples of what I think can help. And like I said, this isn't going to be for everybody, but if you have, let's just say you're the mentor and you have a child or, a young adult, you can't just say, I'm taking that phone from you, and they're not going to, it's a powerful drug. I you know me, I have this thing on my hands all day long now.
Sending me Instagram memes.
Sending you Family Guy clips. Yeah, it's like at 4 a.m. Oh, Ian's probably sleeping. I shouldn't have sent that. But it's a powerful thing. And to say, we're going hunting, you shouldn't have that. You should experience the outdoors for what it is. Although valiant, it's not practical. The biggest thing is, once you get out there, and I've done this with numerous people, including my own kids when I've taken them hunting, is, allow that to be present, but also use every chance you can to have a teaching experience, which might sound boring that's a shagbark hickory. that is a silver maple. The difference between a silver maple and a hard maple is this. And what I always thought, this goes back to Jack Brower, and it was what he told me with deer and deer hunting. He said, always try to teach somebody something every day. And I've tried to use that just in raising my kids and bringing people into hunting. But it would be like, they might ask a simple question. Why do bucks rub their antlers on trees? This or that. And it's like, okay, if I can, and then you plant that seed, but it takes time to take effect. And to get them, I know this is my long-winded way of answering things, but to get them excited, especially like in a turkey blind. I remember when my kids were little, I downloaded some like Disney princess thing, like game, and said, here, play this for a while. And then when a turkey gobbled, okay, give me the phone. And now we're gonna see if this turkey comes in.
Right.
And then that leads up to longer sits, less time, screen time. I'm just talking about being out there in the blind and then doing other things outside of hunting. The other thing I wanted to mention was, and we talk about this a lot, but make that experience a positive experience. And that means like I would bring Orange Crush, never bought it otherwise, but you got an Orange Crush if you went hunting. You got some of those little Haribo gummy bears, things like that. And by all means, just not focusing on the result, focusing on just trying to spend a little more time out there every single time. It's difficult. And I know other guys who are diehard whitetail hunters who have sons who wanted them to take it up. It's kind of like the dad with Little League, the dad who's trying to live through his kid as a baseball player.
Right.
The kid might do it for a few years and then he loses interest. But let's say the kid loses interest and never hunts again. Well, he at least had those couple years. But other ones I've seen, especially, and people close to us, who took their kids hunting at a young age, did some of these things. The kids went off to college, did their own things, moved to bigger cities, all that kind of stuff. And then lo and behold, 28 years old, 30 years old, they come back.
Yep.
And I will say with great certainty, it's the same thing with religion. It's the same thing with interests. It's something that is a life skill, hunting is. And if anything, if they don't hunt, they at least have an appreciation of it.
Without getting too far off, I totally agree. And I don't want to stray too far away here, but like you get a taste of that need, that desire, that will that we all naturally have. And that's why I kind of like that you reference religion, because regardless of whether or not you want to be a part of it, that need and that desire will always be there with you to search for answers. And I think when people got a taste of that natural lifestyle of being able to live off of the land and being able to connect with nature and touch grass and get outside, people want to go back to that, especially when they're older and they're kind of sitting there contemplating, man, what have I, my 20s were cool, but what am I doing now? I want to go back outside. I remember deer hunting. I remember sitting in the blind with my dad. I remember, being excited to get a deer and stuff like that.
And I've seen it in you. I mean, you've taken up bow hunting, and now you've shot how many? 2?
Mm-hmm.
And with each experience, I see how excited you get, not only with the hunt, but now you want to be out there with like scouting, and you want. Not that you didn't before, but I can see that's building.
Right.
And also, like, you're bringing home this meat, and Ian, if you guys don't know, he's a great cook. So it's like you're like looking at different ways how to prepare it, and like pairing the taste with things. So that builds that whole thing. And maybe, I don't think it's going to happen with you, but maybe with somebody else, maybe that's just a short chapter in their life. Maybe that's something they do, and they're like, it was cool, but I think the for hunting's future, we've talked about this for decades. The hunting's future, yes, we want to always try to recruit more hunters, but the hunting's future is to educate people, non-hunters, to the benefits of hunting, number one, for wildlife management and land management, and then the natural protein acquisition, and that's it. I mean, basically that's it. So
I'm gonna throw a number 3 in there, if I may, and I'm just gonna say on top of that, the gravity of the situation, the gravity of the situation, the weight that it carries when you take an animal's life and what you're doing, and because social media, people like to you smoked them, and it's like, yeah, you great shot, you did smoke them, but like that was a fantastic shot, you smoked him, but that deer is that's gonna take you further than you could have ever imagined, body, mind, soul. Like that's gonna nourish your family, the memory's gonna last with you forever, and that's something that also needs to be made clear to everyone.
Yeah, and the other one is I've sent you these two, that it's reality.
Yeah.
So like I respond to a lot of anti-hunters. I know I shouldn't, but I do. They'll have a comment like, "Oh, that deer suffered." I'm like, "Well, it didn't suffer as much as the chicken that was,
Yeah.
mass processed." And I have nothing against that. I raise my own chickens, but it's like, this is real, you know.
Yeah, and
watch Nature is Metal if you want to watch another YouTube video channel. Nature is Metal. That's just about nature
being raw in its truest form.
Like we had this one yesterday. It was did you see that when somebody posted a meme about how a hippopotamus was much more noble animal than a lion because a lion ate meat and the hippo was a vegetarian? And I'm like, well, actually, here's a video for you of a hippo eating a zebra live.
Yeah.
Nature is
Hippos
metal.
Are deadlier than sharks, and you cannot change my mind on that.
And hunting is, I don't care what anybody says, hunting is the most humane and natural way to achieve the protein that we all have to have.
Right.
So we're not going to go down.
So just to conclude there with with what you said, one, to educate as many hunters as possible. Our goal to create that positive hunting experience is like a 4-step process. 1, educate as many hunters as possible. 2, educate them on the protein, on the meat, on the value that they get out of it. 3, the gravity of the situation, and 4, what you just said.
That's excellent. I mean, and that's what it's educate, not just on, not trying to justify your existence as a hunter, just on the natural world. I agree with that 100%.
Yep,
totally. Okay, did we miss a topic?
I think I'm gonna. No, we nailed everything. Everything.
I know, and if anybody's listening to this, or I hope you are, watching this, type the questions in the comments section, because what Ian does is he compiles those, and then we use those in future podcasts. So if there's a topic within this topic that you want to talk about, let's talk about it.
Yeah, if we didn't touch on something in particular that you wanted to hear more about, we want to know about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then give us what is your what makes hunting positive for you, and what can we as a community do to embrace those types of actions or lifestyles?
So to conclude, what should determine whether or not you have a good hunting experience? And this is, I'm not saying that there's a wrong answer or a right answer, but there is a general area that you should lean into with this.
The general area, what determines if you have a positive hunting experience out in a single day or whatever, is that you're having fun.
Yeah.
You're not hunting for somebody else. You're not shooting a deer for somebody else. You're certainly not doing it for social media.
Yeah.
You're not shooting something or whatever to post it on Instagram. You're doing it because you want to get out there and connect with nature. And I know that might sound sappy, but it's true. You want to connect, and you want to experience the sunrises, all that flowery stuff that we talk about. But also, ultimately, you're out there to, experience that, and then hopefully bring home some protein for yourself, or in your family, or I know a lot of people who love doing it as a way of charity. Like they might take a little bit, but they're like, I'm not going to eat 100 pounds of venison, so I'm gonna give some to the Paul's Pantry in Green Bay. That's a local one here in Wisconsin. They donate tens of thousands of pounds of meat to homeless shelters. There's all sorts of things like that. But anyways, to answer your question, for me personally, or for what I was talking to somebody who was asking me why I should go hunting, to connect with nature and basically recharge your batteries.
My answer to that question is, what should determine a positive hunting experience? Me. No one else. I like
That's much more succinct than when I put it.
Like, I am not gonna let anyone else change the way that I feel when I hunt, because that is, if the bow is in my hands and I have a legal tag and an ethical way of harvesting this animal, of killing this animal, no one is going to change the way I feel. And that is, in my opinion, I'm young and I'm new. I've only ever shot 2 deer, so who am I to say anything at all? But
you're part of the community.
You have to
don't
take control of your own experience.
Don't say it like that, Ian, or anybody else. Don't say, "Oh, I only have the." No, you're part of the community. You're a hunter.
My point is that it's not just hunting. Like, it's in everything in life. You have to take control of your own experiences to make it the most.
And that's something I've told you that I used to say to all these school kids when I used to do speaking engagements. I said, "Repeat after me. I am responsible for my own happiness."
Yep.
And the one thing I want to add at the end here is, when we say hunting, I will also say hunting, fishing, trapping. All three are the same, and we are all one brotherhood and sisterhood together.
Outdoorsmen and outdoorswomen.
Hunters, fishermen, and trappers. So on that, we're going to close it. Thank you for listening to us on Deer Talk Now. You can listen to any of these podcasts wherever podcasts are dropped. And also watch the video versions on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. YouTube is YouTube.com/DDH for deer and deer hunting. YouTube.com/DDH online. For Ian Sanchez, I am Dan Schmidt. We will catch you next Thursday for another brand new episode of Deer Talk Now. Deer Talk Now is brought to you by 10-Point Crossbow Technologies. Whether I'm in a tree stand, ground blind, or spot and stalk hunting, I know the Nitro 505 is up to any challenge. Check one out at a dealer near you or log on to 10pointcrossbows.com for more information.